Welcome back to another esports.gg video where we're showcasing all of the Deadlock heroes and their abilities. We'll kick things off with the ace detective Abrams.
Alright, blue boy, let's get to work.
His first ability is Siphon Life, which sends out a ring and drains the health of enemies caught within it. Siphon the enemy life before your random teammates siphon the life out of you. Next is Shoulder Charge. Run and drag enemies in your path. Pin them against a wall like they're a weeb at a con to stun and deal damage. Then comes Infernal Resilience. This ability is a rare one where you don't actually have to activate it. Just unlock it in a match to turn some damage into health over time. Last is the big one, Seismic Impact. Abrams leaps into the air, slams downward, damaging and stunning anyone caught in his landing zone. Bebop, the knockout robot, has a laser gun for its main source of damage. And its first ability hits you with an exploding uppercut that hurts just a bit, but dishes out area of effect damage if the enemy lands near others. Then there's the Sticky Bomb. Attach it to a nearby target, or attach it to Bebop himself if you want to go out in a blaze of glory. Follow that up with Hook, which is, well, a hook that pulls in an enemy while dealing damage.
Get over here!
And last up is Hyper Beam. And no, it's not exactly like the Pokemon attack, although it is a massive laser that deals damage and slows enemy movement. It can also be used to cause Bebop to hover while in the air. Next, we have Dynamo, another robotic hero. His kinetic pulse damages and disrupts enemies by kicking them up into the air. Quantum Entanglement is a great way to escape, giving Dynamo a short-range teleport that can be placed up, down, and all around. He can even bring allies along and get a fresh reload with a higher fire rate for a brief moment. Rejuvenating Aurora is a healing ability. Simple enough. Keep yourself and your allies alive inside the ring. Then create another, more devastating ring with Singularity. Pull enemies in and damage them throughout the ability's duration. On to Great Talon and the Charge Shot. Pierce through enemies in hopes of hitting a clip with a collat. Rain of Arrows then sends Great Talon into the sky with a boost to weapon damage and a multi-shot function to the bow and arrow. Next is Immobilizing Trap. Once armed, it immobilizes and then slows anyone that enters its radius. Finish up with this geezer's kit with Guided Owl. Cast and control a spirit owl forward that damages and stuns.
Hawk out!
Sky mains trying Deadlock? Rejoice! Haze is a silent assassin. Her sleep dagger makes enemies go night-night until the duration ends or damage is dealt to them. Then Smoke Bomb makes her invisible except at close range and boosts her sprint speed. Return to sight after the timer runs out or when you fire your weapon. Fixation is an always-on ability that increases bullet damage the more you lay into a target, with headshots counting double. And Bullet Dance. This one is for you Overwatch Reaper enjoyers out there. Haze just flips around while firing your pistols, hitting everything in the area. Infernus is all about bringing the heat with Catalyst. Throw a splash of napalm forward to slow enemies and amplify Infernus's damage to them. Use Flame Dash to run fast as hell, leaving a trail behind that burns enemies who touch it. Afterburn is another always-on ability, making the flaming bullets he shoots from his finger gun apply a burning effect. And Concussive Combustion. Turn into a living bomb that deals damage and stuns all enemies in its radius. Kaboom! Now Ivy uses the Kudzu Bomb ability to summon vines that damage and slow. Watcher's Covenant connects with an ally to replicate healing between the two players. Stoneform turns this ugly thing into a giant gargoyle that smashes down to stun and deal damage. An airdrop lets Ivy take flight with an ally or a bomb. Drop whatever you're carrying to cause a huge explosion that slows movement and provides a bullet shield when the flying ends. Kelvin is Deadlock's resident Iceman. Frost Grenade is easy enough. Throw it at an enemy and it damages and slows them. Ice Path turns him into Frozone from The Incredibles. He creates a trail that can be raised or lowered, giving a speed boost to allies that walk on it. Just note that enemies can also use it to get the high ground. Then Arctic Beam. This sends a blast of cold energy forward, which damages enemies and slows both movement and fire rate the longer they're caught in it. Frozen Shelter creates an ice dome that is impenetrable. Inside of it, enemies are slowed and allies regenerate health. For Lady Geist, her looks aren't the only thing that will kill. Essence Bomb drains some of her health and throws an object that deals damage equal to the health sacrificed. Life Drain creates a tether between the lady and an enemy. Keep the target in your line of sight to heal yourself up with their health you steal. Malice is another health sacrificing ability where you launch blood shards that stack. Each stack slows the enemy and increases the damage they take more and more. Last for Lady Geist is Soul Exchange. Swap health with the targeted enemy if you're on the brink to keep her in the fight. Lash with the Stash is here to whip you into shape. With Ground Strike, stomp down and deal damage to anyone in front of you. It also works if you're jumping from above. Grapple launches yourself forward through the air, but can only be used on an enemy. You'll see how you cannot grapple buildings to travel. Flog brings out the whip, striking enemies and stealing life from them. Then Death Slam has you channel energy into the whip, lifting any enemies in range in the air. Stun them and slam them hard into the ground to damage and slow them and any enemy you slam them onto. McGinnis is a heavy hitter. Her mini turret can be placed down to automatically shoot enemies within its line of sight. Spectral Wall can then cut enemies off from the rest of their team. If placed precisely, it will damage the enemy caught in front of it and slow anyone nearby. Medicinal Spectre is an area of effect healing ability, so just place it down and bring back the health of you and allies. Heavy Barrage is where the fun is had. Send out a lengthy volley of rockets that will have your opponents running for the hills. The terrible twosome of Mo and Krill are as deadly as they are hideous. Use Scorn to attack and deal damage, healing yourself based on the damage dealt. Burrow sends the duo underground. Pop back up to knock enemies into the air, then damage and slow them with that final spinning attack. You can use Burrow to get out of a pinch too if you need to escape. On to Sandblast. This lets you channel your inner Dale Gribble.
Pocket sand.
The attack disarms enemies and dishes out some damage. Then the combo ability keeps the target from moving, while Mo and Krill slap them up. Get an elimination during the move and you gain max health. Paradox manipulates time. Her pulse grenade damages, slows, and stacks damage amplification for Paradox with each pulse. The time wall can be placed to stop time for all enemies and projectiles that touch it. A percentage of damage is dealt as well. Kinetic Carbine charges up Paradox's gun. Gain increased movement speed upon full charge, apply a time stop to the target, and fire the buffed shot. Paradoxical Swap, and I can't believe I said that right on the first try, lets you swap positions with the targeted enemy. On to Pocket and his superpowered suitcase. Use Barrage to launch projectiles that deal damage and apply slowed movement to anyone it hits. Flying Cloak sends a sentient cloak forward, damaging enemies it connects with. Use the ability again to teleport to the cloak's location. Enchanter's Satchel sends Pocket into his suitcase. Burst out of it to deal damage to anyone in the marked range. Affliction deals damage over time to nearby enemies, but it is non-lethal and does not apply item procs. Seven is a pretty popular hero in Deadlock.
Seven!
The numbered fella can use Lightning Ball to send, you guessed it, a damaging ball of lightning. It sticks to the first surface it hits, but it does slow down when enemies are caught in it. Static Charge targets an enemy and after a short buildup, stuns and damages them and anyone nearby. Power Surge is a buff to 7's rifle. While active, bullets get added shock damage and that electric shock can bounce off to enemies near the target. Storm Cloud is his most powerful ability, as 7 channels electricity and lightning emanates from him to deal huge damage. Shiv has a gun, but of course with a name like his, he has knives too. His rage meter is passive, gaining increased damage and special properties to his other abilities when full. His serrated knives can be thrown to damage and cause a bleed effect, with additional hits stacking that effect. Slice and Dice sees Shiv dash forward to cause damage. If Rage is full, an Echo follows behind to double the attack. Bloodletting allows him to only take a bit of immediate damage, while causing the rest to come in over time. And Killing Blow is where Shiv leaps at an enemy to attack. If their health is under the kill threshold, they're instantly eliminated, otherwise you'll deal 200 damage. Now we're at Vindicta, a ruthless sniper. Utilize her stake ability to tether an enemy to the ground so you can easily pick them off while they're stuck in that location. Flight sends her into the air, and while up there, she floats easily and your weapon deals bonus spirit damage to anyone unlucky enough to be caught in your crosshair. Crow Familiar can be sent to deal impact damage, which reduces bullet resistance and applies a bleed, dealing damage based on the target's current health. Assassinate gives you access to the scope on Vindicta's rifle. It does bonus damage to enemies under 50% health, and can be utilized during the flight ability. Next is Viscous, made completely out of Nickelodeon slime. The splatter ability throws a ball of goo that deals damage and slows anyone that steps in it. Follow that up with the Cube, which can be used on yourself or an ally. It purges debuffs, protects from damage, and increases health regen. You can't do anything while you're inside it though. Puddle Punch sends a goopy fist out of the ground to launch enemies, dealing damage and slowing them. The ultimate, known as Goo Ball, sees Viscous morph into a snotty boulder that can double jump and deals huge damage while stunning anyone it mows down. We're in the W's now with Warden. Alchemical Flask chucks a flask that damages and slows enemies, while also reducing their weapon damage and stamina. Willpower grants a spirit shield and bonus movement speed to Warden. Binding Word sends out a curse that looks like Warden is playing a claw machine. If it lands, the enemy is damaged and immobilized. Last Stand charges up and releases multiple pulses that damage enemies while healing Warden. During Last Stand, bullet resistance is greatly increased. Onto Wraith and her old school mobster look with the Tommy gun. Card Trick builds up uses as you deal damage. Throw them and guide them with your crosshair. Project Mind is simple, allowing you to teleport to the targeted location. You can look up to use it and advance to the high ground. Full Auto ups the fire rate of your gun temporarily. Nearby allies receive half of that fire rate buff. And for Telekinesis, use it to lift an enemy into the air. Stun them for a short period, and when it ends, hit them with telekinesis damage. We did it, everyone. We made it to the end with Yamato. Use Power Slash to release a charged Sword Strike. Activate it early to deal partial damage. Flying Strike has you grapple onto an enemy, reeling yourself into them to damage and slow. Crimson Slash attacks enemies within the ability's range, damaging and slowing their fire rate. If you hit an enemy hero, you heal a bit of health. And finally, Shadow Transformation. Yamato becomes infused with her Shadow Soul. Unable to die in this mode, abilities are refreshed and are 60% faster. The weapon has infinite ammo. You gain damage resists and immunity to negative status effects. Sheesh. Well, there you have it, folks. Thank you for sticking around with us through all 21 heroes of Deadlock as we showcase their abilities. Before you go, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and let us know below which hero you've made your main in Deadlock and why.